guys can sit on your table. Two, and one. So like I said, if you're someone who is a desk sitter, right, and something that you'll notice, your classmate there, he might want to turn around, honey, in the purple shirt. Would you let him turn around? You want to turn around backwards, or are you good like that? You're good like that? Okay, thank you for being flexible. So again, if you're someone sitting on your desk and it's not comfortable, we won't hear you switch. We'll just see you carefully sit down in your chair. Okay. All right. So I am super excited to share with you one of my favorite strategies. And the reason I want to share that with you is because I bet many times in your life, especially in school, you've heard teachers say, well, what are you reading? Tell me what you're reading. Has that ever happened to you? Okay. And if not, it definitely will this year, right, as you meet in small groups with Mr. Kelly. But something I want you to think about is, how do you actually know what to say, right? Because whether you're telling someone you're reading with or you're telling a teacher, we don't want to hear everything, right? We want you to get to the good stuff so we can keep reading and working too. So the strategy I want to share with you is called the Fab Five. And what I'd like you to do with your switchboards is I want you to write. It's going to be your copy of what we do so your brain can remember it too. Okay? So with the Fab Five, I bet you can guess there are 5 things. Right? With the Fab Five, it looks like this. So as I write, you can write. Or if you're someone who prefers to watch me first, that's okay too. Okay? But sometimes when our hand is busy, it helps our brain stay busy too. So the first part of the Fab Five is the who or the what. Because in the Fab Five, we're looking to quickly retell something, a part of a book, a whole book. We're quickly trying to say, all right, what's the important stuff? Let's get to the meat. Okay? So when we're thinking Fab Five, we're thinking who or what. Do this with me. Who? Do it with me. Who? Do it with me. Who? And sometimes you might actually be text coding with this Fab Five. So then you might actually have even a text code or a symbol. And I just like to do a face. Okay? So put that next to yours. One time we might give you an article, right? And say, let's do some text coding. And instead of having to write it out, you could just put a smiley face. Okay? So after the who or the what, then comes that next piece, right? You've told us who it is, so who or what wants? Because somebody always wants something, right? Whether they want to take over the world in your story, whether they want to, right, defend the honor of their team, whatever they're doing, they always want something. They want to find a friend. And the way that we think of that symbol is a $sign. Because, like it or not, right, everyone would be happy to have some money, right? And the way that action looks is wants. Do it with me. Wants. Do it with me. Wants. So, do it with me. Who wants? So something always gets in the way. But there's always a problem, right? There's always a problem in the story. Big problem, small problem, 20 problems, 1 problem. There's always a problem in the story. And the text code for that is an X. And the motion looks like this. But, do it with me. But, do it with me. But. Now sometimes there's more than one of these, right? If you're reading a pretty involved story, there's a lot of problems. But put it together, it looks like who wants, but. And of course, like you've heard your whole life when thinking about stories, right? There's a solution. So, right, the character has that problem, right? But, right, the mean guy gets in the way. But there's always a solution. And a solution doesn't always mean it gets better, but it's an attempt to address the problem. And the motion looks like this. So, do it with me. So, do it with me. So, okay? And let's put it all together. Who wants, but, so. And sometimes that's where it can end, right? So they live happily ever after. I know, right? Gross. Is that real life? Not really. Okay? That's why we have one more piece to it. Okay? We have then. Sometimes it's next. Sometimes it's so. Sometimes it's a different kind of word. But it's that last piece that says, we learned something from this. So they learned that we have to recycle, otherwise our world will be filled with garbage. Then the moral of the story is, tell the truth if you want a decent life. So this is the piece where we really see what kind of reader you are. Are you the kind of reader that stops here with So they lived happily ever after.
No.
Hopefully not, right? You're the kind of reader that's going to say, this is what we can learn from it. Whether we're learning from the problem or we're learning from the problem and the reaction to the solution, there's something to learn here. And this is where we see what kind of reader you are. Because a lot of times, books won't tell you this part. They stop here. But being a very close and critical reader, you know you're not going to stop there. You know there's something else. And so that's what I'm excited to work with you on. You know, identifying what is that something else that we can learn. And the text code looks like a star. Okay. And the motion looks like this. Then.
Like your mind explodes.
Yeah, oh, I love that description. Like your mind explodes. Then, do it with me. Then. Okay. So let's put all the motions together. Ready? Who wants, but, so, then. One more time.
Who wants, but, so, then.
Then, you can probably guess, but I'm going to ask you to try with your story, right? But, before I ask you to try with your story, would you mind if I showed you just briefly what it looks like with the story that I brought?
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to read a few pages of this because I just want you to get a feel for what I'm looking for. Now, sometimes we'll have you use your reader response journal, but when you're first trying out a strategy, I like to use her switchboards because it's easy to erase, right? You can make a mistake and it's not a big deal, okay? So I'm just going to read the first few pages of the story that I brought, and then I'm going to read a few more after you go off and read. Uh-oh. And the story is called Each Kindness. And this is a story you may have heard before. It's a really good story when you're thinking about a lot of different things. Okay? But we know our purpose for reading is to try out our Fab Five to see, does this really work? Does this help me actually remember what I read? Okay? So I'm just going to read the first few pages. If you'd like to try this out while I'm reading, if you want to try and document some of this on your own switchboard, please go for it. Right? The busier your hands are, the more active your brain is. Okay?
Can we just switch our side a little?
Yep, you could switch it over, or you could erase it, or you could write on the side, whatever you'd like to do. That winter, snow fell on everything, turning the world a brilliant white. Now, I like that because the author's kind of setting the stage, right? When I think of snow, and that seems like a really peaceful atmosphere, so my mind is going to, oh, maybe this is a peaceful story. One morning, as we settled into our seats, the classroom door opened, and the principal came in. She had a girl with her, and she said to us, "This is Maya." Maya looked down at the floor. What would that look like?
Sad.
I like that you're thinking. I think I heard her whisper, "Hello." We all stared at her. Her coat was open, and the clothes beneath it looked old and ragged. Her shoes were spring shoes, not meant for the snow. A strap on one of them had broken. Now, think for a minute, right? Don't tell me, just think about it. Think about all of a sudden the story shifted, right? We think we have this new girl story, right? New girl at school, kind of one of those. And all of a sudden the narrator isn't the kind of narrator you're used to hearing, right? Listen to her word choice. And certainly I'm putting a lot of intonation in it, right? I'm putting some fluency and voice into it. But listen to these words. We all stared at her. Would you all stare at me, please? Now imagine how that would feel.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, right? Like you are on the spot. Not only are you the new person at school, everybody's staring at you like you're an old piece of meat. One more page. Our teacher, Ms. Albert, said, "Say good morning to our new student." But most of us were silent. The only empty seat was next to me. That's where our teacher put Maya. See, right there, that's a clue, right? The only empty seat was next to me. So that tells us that this narrator, this kind of mean student, I'm kind of feeling like she's mean. I don't know if she is, but her voice tone, right, is telling me she's kind of mean. She's our narrator, which is interesting, right? She's telling us that perspective of the new girl. We don't hear from Maya yet. That's where our teacher put Maya. And on that first day, Maya turned to me and smiled. Will you turn and smile at me? But I didn't smile back. I moved my chair, myself, and my books a little farther away from her. And when she looked my way, I turned to the window and stared out at the snow. Will you do that? Will you turn to the window and stare? Now imagine I just smiled at you, right? And instead of smiling back, you turn away from me and you stare out the window.
Let's just
I agree, right? And look what you're doing, right? You're reacting as a reader. And that's what your reader response journal is for you to react to the great things, the horrible things, the disgusting things that you read about. Because that way you have something to talk about when you get together as a whole class or with somebody else to chat books, right? You don't want to just have nothing to talk about. And that's why a journal really can help. And every day after that, when Maya came into the classroom, I looked away and I didn't smile back. So I'll stop there and ask myself, if my purpose for reading this good book was to really work on my ability to summarize and use the Fab Five, what could I fill out so far? Turn to that elbow partner, that person right next to you, and share with them, what do you think? Do I have anything that I could record yet? Thank you. So, listening to some of you talk, I think that we may be thinking the same thing. As a reader, I'm thinking that right now, my who or my what that I should focus on is Maya. Thumb up if you agree, thumb down if you disagree. Okay? So looking around, I see that most of you are in agreement. Some of you are kind of here because you're not quite sure. You're thinking, ooh, maybe the narrator, right? But right now I'm going to go with Maya. And so I have to ask myself, if my who is Maya, what does she want? Call it out. What do you think she wants?
Friends.
Okay, I agree with you. So Maya, and I'm going to put that word wants friends. Do we have a problem yet? But, call it out, but. Okay, right? But that's true, right? The narrator, right? And I like that you're using that reading vocabulary. And I should say, but, do a little editing right there, but the narrator does not want to include her. I like that word ignore too. That would be a good word choice I heard someone call out. So right now I think that's where I have to stop, because so, do I know what's going to happen quite yet? We know what the problem is, but we don't quite know that so, right? So say it with me. Okay, Maya wants friends, but the narrator does not want to include her. So even just thinking about those actions, even if you're not a big writing kind of person, thinking about those actions will remind you, what should I really be keeping track of in this story? So here's your challenge. I hear that you're really working on building your stamina on Read to Self, and so I'm excited to see that. And now you also have a task. As you're reading to self, we all will be looking for you to be trying out the Fab Five with what you're reading. We'll see you take your switchboard, we'll see you take your marker, and we'll see you find your just right book and just right spot, and we'll see you read and then pause like I did. Right? Did I read all the way through the book and then try and do this?
No.
No. Right? I paused. Right? Yeah, I paused after about 3 pages. So that's what you want to think to yourself. Am I going to pause after 1 page and see what I have? Certainly. You could do that if you have a longer book. You could pause after 2 pages. But at some point, decide for yourself, where am I going to pause so that I remember to give this a try? Because when you come back to our gathering spot, you'll be sharing what you've done with someone next to you. Okay? Now, is this something new? Yeah. So before we head off, will you stand up with me, please? And would you put your hands out like this? So if you were sitting on your desk, obviously you'll have to stand, right? All right, and so when you're thinking about, Mina, on the floor. Yep, on the floor. I know, that's the one spot where it doesn't work. Okay. And you're thinking about being balanced, right? So when you're trying to be balanced, sometimes something new can make you feel a little imbalanced. Right? All of a sudden you're steady on your feet, and something new, whether it's a new teacher comes into the classroom or a new strategy, and it can make you feel a little imbalanced. So my challenge for you is, how are you going to help yourself feel balanced? Well, first, we're going to take a deep breath. Our arms are going to go up, right? And you're going to stretch up as far as you can. And then to establish a balance, you're going to move to the right, and you're going to hold it. And you're going to move to the left, and you're going to hold it. And you're going to take that deep breath and bring your arms down. And you're going to look all around you, and you're going to know that all of us here are here to support you in trying new things, especially in reading. Okay? So if it doesn't make sense the first time, that's okay. When you come back the second time, I'm going to model some more so you can keep seeing what it looks like. Okay? So I'm going to look at the clock for a minute. Okay, so you don't have to rush. In 1 minute, though, I will see you sitting somewhere comfy. And now it's anyone's option to sit on their desk. If you'd like to sit on your desk and read, that'd be a great option in a safe way. So in 1 minute, we'll see you in a just right spot, reading a just right book with your switchboard. And you can do some repeating back, or you can just start this from where you are. About 30 seconds to make sure that spot that you're standing in is the spot you're going to be at or sitting. You can sit on the floor as well. About 10 seconds. So then you already have your good spot. And it's 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So right now, just like you know in your read to self, you're staying in one spot. You're staying in one spot. You're reading the whole time, which means right now you're not chatting with anybody about books. Right? You're doing some reading. You're doing some writing. Okay? If you're sitting on your desk, it's uncomfy. That doesn't count to stay in one spot. You can just shift down to your chair, and that would be okay. All right? So looking at your clock, I'm looking forward to see how long you built your stamina to reading to self. Go for it.